In this video, I'm going to show you basic configuration of an ASA firewall. I'm going to show you the network address translation as well between this outside client and this web server. What I've got here is kind of a standard topology. I've got this ASA firewall, and that's a next generation firewall from Cisco. So the primary advantages of next generation firewall include more throughput and also advanced malware protection and intrusion prevention services. What I've got is a client on the internet and connecting to this internet router. And the internet router is connected to this outside interface of this firewall. That's Ethernet 00. It's labeled outside. The outside interface is a public IP address, 200.201.2. Then there's this inside interface, and this is private addressing, 192.168.1.1, and that's Ethernet 01. And that connects within the data center to a switch, and that has a web server, 192.168.1.2, and that's HTTPS. I've also got this DMZ server. It's called public. This is on Ethernet 02. This is going to be configured so the DMZ server has no access to the inside network. It's only within the DMZ. So traffic can only flow from the client to the DMZ server. However, there's no connectivity from the server to any server within the data center. The client can also connect to this web server within the data center. So I'll select Firewall 1 and start the configuration. So after you type enable, just hit the enter key, since by default there's no enable password on the ASA firewall. It should be noted as well, CDP is not supported on ASA firewalls, and the reason is security, since you don't want to be sending CDP frames out to the internet. The first thing I want to do is assign a host name. I'm going to assign Firewall 1. Then enable password. That's a CCNA exam. Now the interfaces on a firewall are somewhat different from other Cisco devices. They are layer 3 interfaces, however, they're based on VLAN interfaces. So what I have to do is assign each physical interface to a VLAN. The inside interface, that's Ethernet 01, that's assigned to VLAN 1 by default. However, I have to assign the outside interface to VLAN 2, and the DMZ interface, that's Ethernet 02, that's going to be assigned to VLAN 3. So it'll be VLAN 1, VLAN 2, and VLAN 3. Command is switchport access VLAN. Then after that's done, I'll configure the VLAN interfaces and assign an IP address. We'll start with the outside interface. That's interface Ethernet 00. That's the interface right there. Switchport access VLAN 2. Now I'm just going to up arrow. I'll change this to Ethernet 02. And that's the DMZ interface. Just up arrow there. And switchport access VLAN 3. As mentioned, the inside interface is already configured by default for VLAN 1. Now we'll start with the VLAN interfaces. So interface VLAN 1, this is for the inside interface. And first command is name if inside. So that's the name of the inside interface. Next thing I'm going to do is assign a security level to the inside interface. And since it's the inside interface, it has the lowest security level. So that'll be security level 100. And now I'll assign an IP address. That's 192.168.1.1/24. There it is there. There's the IP address. 192.168.1.1. So with the lowest security level, that means that any packets from inside the network are automatically permitted to the outside network. So going from an inside zone to an outside zone. And I'll do a no shut. Next, what I'll do is the outside interface. So that's interface VLAN 2. And the name of the interface is outside. Notice, well, these are reserved names for the ASA firewall. Security level 0. And that is the highest security level. You're going to have to explicitly permit traffic through that firewall, since it's based on zero trust, so nothing is trusted unless there is an explicit permission that's been configured on the firewall. So the IP address is 200.201.2/24. I'll do a no shut on that. So this outside interface is 200.201.2, and INET, this gig 00, that would be 200.201.1. So they're in the same subnet. Now I'm going to do the DMZ interface. That's interface VLAN 3. First command is no forward interface VLAN 1. And what that does is that prevents any traffic being forwarded from the DMZ to the inside interface. So that DMZ server cannot connect to anything within the data center. Packet Tracer Firewall has a base license. I can only have one interface forwarding to the data center and not two. And the named interface is DMZ. This gives me an alert saying the security level for DMZ is set to 0. So I don't want that. So I'm going to have to change that. I'll make it 50. So the inside interface is 100. And the outside is 0, and that's the highest. And DMZ is 50. The IP address is 200.203.254/24. I'll do a no shut on that. So the DMZ server is 200.203.1. So the interface VLAN is the gateway. What I'm going to do now is just configure the network address translation. Start with this command object network and then a name web server. Then the IP address of the web server, that's host 192.168.1.2, 192.168.1.2. This configures static NAT translation between inside and outside interfaces. So that's between 200.201.2 and the web server private address 192.168.1.2. This is similar to the network address translation video and static NAT. So the outside is 200.201.2. Inside address is 192.168.1.2. I'll just have to put a space in there. So that's done. I'll just exit here. Now the next thing I want to do is configure a default route on the firewall. And this is to forward all traffic from the inside network to the outside network, or the intranet. So the default route is route outside and all the standard zeros. That means any traffic. Send it to 200.201.1. So the next hop is gig 000 on INET. and that is 200.200.1.1. You have to add explicit permissions to a firewall to allow any traffic. By default, it allows no traffic at all. What I'll do is add an access list so the client has permission to access the web server. This is the ACL, this is a firewall rule. And reading from left to right, this is access list, HTTPS. Firewalls don't support numbered ACLs, so you have to use named ACLs. This is extended, since this is going to filter an application port. Then permit TCP, since it's HTTPS. And then the source 200.200, so that's all internet traffic. And this is from this client that's on the 200.200 subnet. And it's got this subnet mask, not a wildcard mask. Destination is host 192.168.1.2, and that permits all 443 traffic, and that's HTTPS. Now I have to apply this ACL on an interface. This command will apply the ACL to the outside interface. Access group HTTPS, and it's going to apply it inbound on the outside interface. It'll filter traffic from the client inbound on that outside interface. Now look at the configuration script. There's the hostname FW1. Enable password is encrypted automatically. There's the interface 0001 and 02. Then the VLAN interfaces, VLAN 1, VLAN 2, and VLAN 3. And the network address translation. And the default route. And the firewall rule. The firewall rule is really just an ACL. It has these default values of telnet timeout 5 and SSH timeout 5. And that's for security as well. That's 5 minutes. So we'll do a copy run to start. Next thing I'm going to do is verify the firewall is working correctly. So we'll go to the client, desktop, and start a web browser. Can't use HTTP since it's only permitting HTTPS, and that's TLS. It used to be SSL. So that's just standard encryption. So I have to address it to the outside public interface since private addressing is now routable. The firewall is going to translate that to the private address of the web server. And there it is working, 200.200.1.2. So the firewall is translating this 200.200.1.2 address, private IP address assigned to the web server. That's 192.168.1.2. And that's required since private addressing isn't routable across the internet. So although I can connect to the web server with a web browser, ping is not going to work since ping is not permitted. I would have had to configure an ACL to allow the ping. All I'm doing is ping that outside interface, but it won't be permitted even on the outside interface since the firewall has no rule for it. So it has to be explicitly permitted. That's why the ping doesn't work. So that shows you how to do basic configuration of a firewall and also how network address translation works when configured on a firewall. And that concludes the video.